The system, the system, the system. The system, the system, the system. The system, the system.
Prepare to be aware. Hello everybody, welcome to The System. I'm the host and producer of The System. My name is Jemal Britain, and I created this show because I wanted to give back. I served time in prison for weapon charge, and I've been home now for 13 months. And now I created two businesses, which is a merchant service and also a snack route. And today I wanted to basically bring a guest, Craig Schley. People know him as Schley.
Right.
And I wanted to give back the system, so I created the show. Can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Craig Schley. I'm in Harlem up here since 1990. I know my brother here for approaching a year. At least it seems like more like 5 years, right?
Yeah.
You've done a lot in a short period of time, and I'm here to talk about how politics and the legal world maybe merge into the system, or how it affects it, and what, and hopefully always add some ideas on how to better improve it.
Well, me and Craig Schley, we met each other about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, when I first came home, and I was coming out of church one Sunday, and a lady came up to me and was saying she was trying to get Craig Schley on the ballot, and basically he's running for the, what was it, 71st district, I believe?
The 70th Assembly.
70th Assembly, yeah.
Right.
So first thing I asked was, is he doing anything for people in prison and doing anything, for the system, period?
Yeah, sure
and she
did.
said, yeah. So she brought him over, he came over, introduced himself, and we hit it off after that, and we've been friends after that. We did some business together with his campaign, and been a great ride. He's a very good friend of mine, and basically I'm here today because I wanted to introduce one part of the system. He's a lawyer, and on the political side, so I want to introduce that part of the system because there's many different parts of the system. You have court, you have the police in the community, you have the correctional officer, you have judges, you have the whole system all around the board. And today, he's here to talk about some things. So, can you tell us where you're from and your journey?
Yep. So I was born and raised in Philly, West Oak Lane, Mount Airy area. More people familiar with the Germantown of Philly. That's real close, connected to it. But I've been in Harlem since 1990. I came up here out of Atlanta, Georgia, as a model and a former fireman electrician, and I slowly got into politics after I went to NYU. Then went to Minnesota, Mitchell Hammer Law School there after graduating from New York University, and came back, assisted a couple of high-profile black attorneys in the community that helped root me in it and understand the process of the legal process of the criminal justice system. And I ran for Congress a couple of times, and also for state assembly. And I created a political action committee once, and created a nonprofit that represented 75 small businesses in Harlem and held up $1.3 billion worth of development that was going to gentrify Harlem, but ultimately they frustrated us in court. They won, and this is what you see from that lawsuit. That was a short thing about me, but we're going to talk about the effects of all of that, and hopefully help my brother with his podcast.
Well, first we start there. I'd like to know your aspiration as a kid. What was your aspiration as a young man? I mean, your journey.
Believe it or not, the first thing I ever wanted to be, and actually became one, was a fireman. Across the street from my elementary school was a fire station, and I remember the fire truck wheels come up to my head, and I just wanted to be a fireman. I used to have fire trucks. Parents used to buy all kinds of things that related to fire. I used to run around with rain boots, think I was a fireman, and I actually became one. And it was fun, and I actually think that was probably the most noble job I had, but also the most dangerous. I almost lost my life twice. It wasn't a blessing of God that I'm actually here. So that's what made I wanted to be initially. I never thought I could be a lawyer. Actually, I came from a poor, not a poor community, but the high school and undergraduate wasn't that well. And the only time someone ever mentioned being a lawyer to me was when I was in the 8th grade. And one of the teachers said, hey, you should think about being a lawyer because you presented this book report pretty well. And that went straight over my head. I was blue collar, a mom, dad, blue collar. Well, my mother worked as a medical clerk. My dad was blue collar. My brothers are blue collar. I have two of my brothers who are police officers. My father was a steel worker and worked for Teamsters. And that was just not possible. I never thought I could be until I got a little older and met my daughter's mother. And she was a doctor, and she showed me how to study, and I ultimately was able to go to law school.
He was a model also, wasn't he?
Yeah, I sure was, man. I actually forgot about that.
Waiter, you know.
Yeah. So when I came to New York City, I came up here and started modeling with Wilhelmina. And who I stayed with first for a year and a half was with Raven Simone. Raven Simone started in Atlanta, Georgia as a model, and I knew her father, and the photographer that met or basically got her in the business also got me in the business, and we used to meet at his studio. And when Raven left to come up to New York, he said, "Hey man, when we start making it, we're gonna bring you up." And that's sure enough, we did. We used to live up in Scarsdale, and my job was to go over Raven's lines in the morning while riding the limousine into town. And she would go over lines, and they would drop me off for 42nd and 5th. I'll go on my rounds for that day, and they pick me back up and go back home. And ultimately, I also picked up the hustle of working at this big catering company. I also did electrical work on the side, and it was good. I did, I modeled from officially full-time 90 through, I'd say 2003. Maybe 2002 or 3 is when I did my last job. Yeah.
All right, so let's dig in now. Let's dig in. Yeah. So now, you know, you're a lawyer basically. What kind of lawyer do you practice?
Well, right now I just left the DOJ as a law clerk with the asset forfeitures, and worked in the what they call the healthcare fraud division. And I'm now making transition to private practice. I'm getting my licensing in New York and my search together, and hopefully a friend and I will go into business with that.
Well, was you ever, excuse me, let me cut you off. You got what I'm saying? All right. You was ever a prosecutor when you first started, anything like that?
Well, when I first started, believe it or not, I worked for a congressman. I had nothing to do with law. I was just graduated NYU, and I applied to work with a state Supreme Court justice. And she actually asked me, said, "Hey man, you're not even in law school. What are you doing applying to work for a Supreme Court justice?" I said, "Well, I think I could do the job, and I want to get some experience." She gave me a little test by calling me in to the chambers. She gave me some papers to work through it. It was a noun judge called Frank Perry met me in the basement library, and I started working for a Supreme Court judge initially. Then ultimately, when I went to law school, before that, I worked with a couple of very prominent attorneys in this area on some murder cases. I got experience before I even went to law school. When I went to law school, my first job in law school and out of law school was working for Ramsey County prosecutor's office, and it was sentencing calendar, meaning if you're not familiar with the legal process, once you're tried and convicted of a crime, the next thing is you have to be sentenced. And that's a separate hearing altogether, and I would be the attorney or the lawyer that went and did that. Ran there,
Oh, that's interesting. I remember you told me a story. I want to get your look on basically what you feel about giving people a second chance and about the system in general and as a whole, right? So you gave me a story. You told me about when a guy came in front of you and you seen his kids and his wife sitting out there, and you basically gave him a shot, right? It was something he put get sentenced to. I can't remember.
Okay, so I was in law school, and I started in law school in Minnesota. They do something rare. If you are good or if you're approved, the supervising lawyer has about 3 slots where you can be a certified student attorney. And I was still learning, meaning that's how you became, that's how I was able to start working in the prosecutor's office as a certified student attorney in law school. Then I oversaw a particular case where after the court was pretty much empty, we had about 30 sentencing hearings that day. And the sentencing hearing basically determines whether the state should argue for or against releasing someone after probation. Meaning during sentencing, you also hear people's probation hearings. And this guy was up for probation, but in this particular day, it was a black judge, it was a black defendant, black prosecutor, and in the back was a beautiful woman with a child. And when the defendant came out from the back of the courtroom, that's where they keep all the pins. The pins are something that for people they hold and take. And I heard this little baby say, "Oh, is that daddy?" And the brother comes out, man, and he sees his daughter, and he's almost in tears. And so the court's empty. This is the last guy on the calendar, and the judge asked me, he said, "You know what, county, I'm gonna let you decide what to do with this case. What do you recommend on this?" Now, the county in the sentencing aspect of a case can recommend upward modification of time, downward modification of time, or whether to release someone for their own recognizance, meaning their good deeds, and or if they should be let go. And so the judge actually gave me that determination, and I looked at the brother, and I looked at what was going on, and he actually should have been let go. And I did what I thought was the right thing, and plus I could not let that kid not see his dad. So the judge said, "Okay, I'm gonna take your recommendation and let the brother go." So he's released right now. They uncuffed him. He went in the back, hugged this kid, and I'm leaving out. And his daughter and his wife was walking past me, and he said, "Man, thanks a lot, man. Thank you, man. What made you do that, man? Because I've been in here before." I said, "Well, look, man, I thought it was the right thing to do, and I couldn't separate you from your kid, but do me this one favor. Don't come back, because you're gonna make me look bad." So I would say about 2 months passed, and I'm on a train in the morning. I'm going to work. I'm all dressed, zooted up in my suit, about to head to the Ramsey County Courthouse. And there's a lonely platform, and this brother's looking at me side-eyed at a distance. I said, "All right, here we go." You know, I'm living in the black neighborhood, and they're prosecuting a lot of folks. Matter of fact, it's called Throgs Neck in St. Paul. And the brother approaches me, say, "Hey man, what's up?" Excuse me. Now he's about 10 yards from me. I said, "Yo man, what's up?" "Hey, is your name such and such?" I said, "Yo man, what's up? You work for the prosecutor's office?" I said, "Look, brother, I don't know what you're doing. What can I do for you? Because I don't know if this guy's trying to come get me or what." And he said, "No, man, you did release me. Didn't you let me go?" I said, "Yeah, I think so. Well, I just wanted to," he had his hand out, "I wanted to thank you, man." So I kind of got relaxed, but I was still watching him because you don't know if somebody coming up to get retribution. He said, "No, man, because I was in there a while, and you changed my life, man. You let me go." And he started telling me the story, brother. It actually brought tears to my eyes, because if I never done anything else in my life to help somebody, that was big. Because you hear the little children in the back, you hear a little girl thinking about their father. Man, there was no way I could have separated that, especially he was deserving of it. And that's what touched me a lot. I know it's a long story, but
I was in the system before, and there's not a lot of people, as far as DA-wise, prosecutor, that give people second chances. They want to basically prosecute you and crucify you and hang you to a cross, right? So if you do something like that, I commend you, right? And so I want to basically hear your outlook on the system and what do you think needs changing and dealing with the criminal justice system that is.
Well, you know Mel worked on my campaign. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, as he was telling you, but he was very instrumental in helping me get on the ballot.
Yeah, I was a field operational manager of that campaign.
Right.
So
and never had any experience, and he learned it, picked up quick.
My first 2 months home, that is too, like that.
That's right. And we had on election day, we had about 60 people that he was campaigning for, and did an excellent job.
You had to manage, had to hire a manager. Yep.
Yeah, right, and he did. And but one of the things I was fighting for was reform of bail, also where parole would not be so difficult. You know, at some point in time, you can't just hold someone in the prison system in perpetuity, meaning like, hey, no matter what happens, I'm not letting this guy go. This is something that we ought to reform, and also the whole just perspective of our community. The community is part of the system too.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Because every law has a correlative value with the people's interests and principles. And if their attitudes is about serving up time, if their attitude is about no one can be reformed, if their attitude is if someone did it, throw them away, that's also going to be reflected in the policies. My policy, my attitude is that our people have to be taken care of. People make mistakes. We sitting there watching a president that was convicted, and they care nothing less about that. So if folks don't care about a president, they shouldn't care about a president being convicted of a crime and electing him to lead them. We shouldn't have no problem in giving our brothers second chances.
Because here it is, if I go get a job, they're gonna look at my past history, my record, and they want to hide me. You know?
Right.
And this is how it is. So why is that?
Yeah, why is that?
Certain things that I can't do. If I want to get a liquor store, I can get a liquor license now. You know?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Still.
So yeah, certain things that certain jobs or certain business you might want to get into, it's like you make it hard for you because you have a record.
Yeah, and just think about this, man. That here they now are the last application I filled out for a particular governmental job under this administration, Trump's administration. They no longer have the requirement of you telling what race you are, whether you're gay or straight. So all these things have an effect. So why, if you served your time, you paid back your bill, your debt, or however you want to call the sentencing that you went through, why does that have to haunt you for the rest of your life? It shouldn't. And so this is just a way in which to beat us down. Just think about that. If you paid somebody, but yet they can always say you still owe me. That's not fair, and that's not how it works, and it shouldn't work that way, even if you're talking about someone serving their time. And that's the whole concept. I serve my time. I pay my debt back to society. And this is something that has to change. And I will also say, I studied history and politics in school. And what I understand is when people come out of prison or out that system, it's just like they did us in slavery. They just let you go. They walk you to the front door, the back door, and say, bye, nigga, bye.
In New York City, you get $40.
$40?
Yeah. And a ticket to get on a bus or a train or something.
And whatever you came in with, right?
Yeah, and you leave with it,
yeah. Clothes might not be fitting. Clothes might be old. They're out of date. Imagine someone not allowing you to develop your understanding of a technology from 5 years ago.
See, see, for me, it was different because I kept my mind out here in the world. I didn't keep my mind in there, and I kept my mind out here, and I read a lot, and took people on the phone. I had my mother, people there for me, my mother mainly, and that helped me a lot. So my mind was always out here and always on business. So that's why when I came right out here, I got right to business. I hooked up with him maybe with a month or two later, and I got into the politics thing, and after that, I created my own 2 businesses, and I'm moving forward now in life, But I want to get back with this show, and this is why I'm doing this, and it should be a light shed what's going on in the system all around, from the courts to the police on the streets to the correctional side there to the judges, the lawyers, the DAs, and everything.
Well, that's a good point, man. I've often said this to you. I say, man, how did you not get stuck in your head? Because the system does just what the system is supposed to do, is destroy you. Many of our brothers and sisters come out of there destroyed. Pretty much it's often in the same condition as they were when they went in, if not worse. I mean, I'm just curious, how did you manage to come out saying, okay, I'm gonna get it going. I'm gonna get involved. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna learn. I realize that I don't know everything. That's very hard to do. Well, I'm just curious.
I mean, like I said, my mind stayed out here, and I never really was part of the system. Even though I got caught up in the system, my mind always been in business. That's where I came from. My grandfather taught me that way. So my mind was always, do better for myself, work for myself. So I never was like, a product of the system. I kept my mind out here, and I just stayed knowing that I'm gonna be out here one day, and I'm gonna come out here and do what I gotta do, and that's how I'm gonna make it in life. Now I served 20 years in prison with just a gun. For a gun, that's what it was, a gun, right? I had a homicide that I got acquitted of because I defended myself because I acted in self-defense. But the DA still wanted me so bad,
Right.
and they used the 3-strike law, which the Clintons started, right? So now 3 strikes, you're out. I got a 17-year life sentence. The parole board kept hitting me. Well, what they was doing, they was using the fact that I got acquitted for murder. They kept using the murder that I no longer even supposed to be looked at because I got acquitted of that because I acted in self-defense. So that's like me being found out guilty because basically by the law of New York State, by the law of the land, you did the right thing and you defended yourself. That's what the jurists found, and that's what they agreed to, and that's why they found me not guilty for murder. But I got found guilty for the gun because I had a legal weapon, and now the prosecutor wanted to crucify me and make it seem like I'm such a bad guy and that I'm guilty of murder, even though the law says that I'm not. And when I went to the parole board, every time I went, it hit me the first time with 2 years. And only thing he talked about is how I killed this young man, right? If somebody did die, but he tried to kill me. He had a weapon. He came to my place where I was staying at, and he tried to shoot me. I defended myself. I did what you're supposed to do, defend yourself, right? Unfortunately, he died, but it is what it is, right? So they kept going on about how all they was doing is reading what the prosecutor did. He wrote a letter, and in a letter, he actually relitigated the case and basically put it in my profile. So I go to pro board, they would see what he's talking about. So in there, he put my version of the story, and he put the witness version of the story, and he made it seem like this person that died was basically the victim, and I was the bad guy that went out there and murdered him.
Can I ask you a question? Now, how do you keep your sanity? That's the question. With all of that going on, right? Getting served up, how do you keep your sanity? Come out here and then start over. How were you able to do that?
I mean, well, like I said, I had things to look forward to. My mother was a big part of that. God, first and foremost, right?
Yes.
Going to church, praying to God, things like that. And I had things to look forward to. My daughter passed away when I was in there, right? But basically, I always thought, I got to come home and do the right thing for her. Especially my daughter right here, matter of fact. This is my daughter right here.
Let me see. Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, so, I just know I had to do the right thing. And I went to do it in my daughter's name and also grace of God and my mother. So I came out and I said, you know what? For me to basically win, I got to come out and do the right thing. And everything that happened, it's not overlooked or it's not like forgotten, but I can move on in life and make better for myself, which I have been doing.
Well, I'm not trying to interview you, but I never asked you this, but how did working on the campaign help you any, or how did you see me coming up? And would you trust politicians, man?
I felt
I can
sense,
come on, man.
I can sense
Look,
good
y'all
spirits.
was being straight,
I can sense good spirits or whatever, and I'm a good reader of people. I was so
right.
So I read, and he seemed like you was a decent guy. You know what I'm saying? And you was offering a little fun too.
You know what I'm saying? Seemed like, right?
You
Seemed like
money too there. So
right.
I basically, and then after that, I got into it, and I liked what was going on, and I said, you know what, this is really part of my resume for life and everything, and credentials. That's a big position. The operational manager.
Right.
I had to manage a lot of people, hire people, and I had to get people for his campaign. It was 60 people. And basically
you not only did you learn fast, you were reliable, and I was saying the same thing about him. I wasn't so certain about him either, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of my brothers and sisters that come out, they're not ready to, acclimate themselves fully into the game. They're very protective and guarded, which rightfully so, but it hinders someone like myself who's trying to utilize their services and also help and share them. It slows that up. But he was open. We both were side-eyeing each other,
Yeah.
But
he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
But now let me get back into the show. He's trying to take over my show. This is my show.
That's right.
The
Sure.
system,
That's
Jemal
right.
operating.
That's right.
People know me as Mel. But anyway, right? So now let's get back to this briefly, so we could wrap it up and everything, right? Now I know you done read and heard about what's going on in state of New York and corrections, how they went on strike and everything, right? And they talking about they want the solitary confinement to come back and things like that. Where's you look on that real quick?
Well, first of all, I think the solitary confinement is not good. I mean, just imagine yourself being locked in your bathroom and a little smaller all day. Just all day, yet alone weeks, months, and years. It's something that in World War II, the Nazis used to use it to really rewire people. So they know it's negative. They know it's bad. And solitary confinement should be solitary punishment. That's what it should be, a solitary reforming somebody's psyche. So no, it needs to go away, and it needs to have some other way of punishment or correcting. Meaning that, hey, I understand that the system has to have the people in the system cooperate, but there's plenty of people that study the system that come up with other ideas other than draconian ways of torturing people by locking them away for hours, days, and years to correct someone's behavior. So no, that's a very good thing that ought to be, it's a very good thing to remove it, and they should study up with other ways to help people, compel them to cooperate.
You know, well, now I know from my experience, you know, I was in a box for, that's solitary confinement, they call it, right? SHU, they call it the box there, right?
Oh, so you were in
Yeah, I did a year, right, for something I didn't even do, right? The CO set me up with a weapon, lied and said I had a weapon on me, right? That's another story I'll give it later time, because it's a nice little story, wrong story, meaning, you know. So basically, they gave me a year in a box, right?
And what? Sorry, man, I'm not interviewed, but
Well, it's
what
size right now, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
What size was your box?
It was smaller than the room, a little bigger than the bathroom, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know. So, you need more questions?
Soon.
Yeah. So anyway, right? Yeah. So I went there. They used that as they used their authority, right? And I was writing grievances, which you have a right to do that in there, right? It's not even right. I hear the freedom of speech. That's what it is, right? And I wrote a grievance on COs that was that harassed me, and that's why they set me up, right, and lied to me. So now they was out here protesting on strike, basically, but they want the box time to come back, right? Because they want to just abuse their power. And I've been in there. You got some guys in there 10, 15, 20 years inside confinement. They had them in there for that time. That makes no sense, right? I just want to touch on that. But back to you, Schley.
Go ahead.
Right now, yeah. So, any other thing else you want to add before we close up? I mean, like basically, any advice you give anybody?
Well,
you know,
I say to us that, you know,
anything you like to share?
Yeah, that right now there's a lot of change going on in the country and the world. Black folks are waking up to a lot of things. I told people that Trump in office is good for two things. First, pull the hoods off of all the racists in this country, meaning that he and his people expose this country for what it is and how it operates. And two, turn the lights on all the roaches, meaning whatever's bad in this country we see. But it's up to us to do something about it. And we have to unify like we're doing here, get the information out, support one another, and organize. That is probably the number one thing that will create change and better our conditions, that we organize and come up with an agenda to do something about terrible conditions that we are facing. And lastly, pray to God to get the fear out of our hearts and start loving our brothers and sisters like we would want someone to love us.
Now, my last question for you is, who should you vote for?
I didn't.
Okay, all right. Basically, truthful. All right.
Now, I did not. I thought about voting for Trump for the simple reason that I thought that if he was in office, his deeds, his dastardly deeds, the machinations will wake us up and force us to do something. Now, there's a such thing as being woke, right? Everybody's woke today. Everybody's woke. I'm woke, everybody's woke. But how many of the woke people are out of bed? But when your house is on fire, not only do you wake up, you get up and do something. So he's like a match in the fire that's waking our sleeping giants. And to that extent, I think he is of some support to us, because we're no longer just sitting around thinking everything's a party, a rap, and getting it on. We got to get out here and do some work, because if we don't, we're going to be eaten alive.
Thank you, Dad. This is the system, and it's the end of today's show. I appreciate my guests and my audience. Thank you very much. And come see the next episode of The System. Thank you.
The system. It confines us. It does not define us.
We'll see you on our next episode. Stay tuned.